Vande Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prema Merita Ropriyan Sakarupan Bhaktaganan Krishna Prema Prala Pradan Vanshakapatrivishcha Kripa Sandhubhyavacha Petitanam Pavenabhyo Vaishnavabhyo Namo Namaha Namo Om Vishnubhadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Simate Gogovinda Swami Niti Namine Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Dandavats everyone, Vaishkapati Vishya, Krishna Devi Vishapati. Tatpadanda Shitamyena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So, just carrying on from last night, Bhakti Yoga Dana, Bhakti E Krishnanam Smarana Krandana. And this was the mood of Mahaprabhu. This is Gurudev said it, Srila Govinda Swami. Mood of Mahaprabhu was chanting, thinking the holy name, chanting the holy name, crying tears of ecstasy.
Who's doing this?
Right? That's the mood of Mahaprabhu. It's from the Sri Chaitanya Bhagavata. And as I said last night, in the commentary by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, he says the first Bhakti Yoga means devotional service means Sambandha Tattva. The second Bhakti Yoga means Abhideya Tattva. And the third means Prayojana Tattva. So Sambandha means relationship. Abhideya means how to act in that relationship. And Prayojana, the goal, means prema. So we have Krishna Bhakti, and Prem Bhakti. And in the words of our beloved Gurudev, Veda Tri Tattva Koi, if you can fully understand and realize these three tattvas, you'll be eternally happy. Because ultimately, to understand these three tattvas, you'll have to understand Prayojana, and Prayojana means prema. And if you can get prema, you'll be eternally happy. Otherwise, you must suffer in this world. So the form of the Supreme Lord, we see Krishna, the deity of Krishna, we'll see that there's threefold bending form. Right? And that threefold bending form is Sambandha, Abhideya, Prayojana. First bend is the feet, and that is Sambandha. The second bend is Krishna's playing the flute, his lips are like this, and his left elbow's pointing towards Srimati Radhika. That is the second bend, that's Abhideya. That's Abhideya, right? And the third bend is Krishna's heart. And that is Prayojana, Prema, Priti, love. So, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur then says, devotional service manifests when one's heart is melted by Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu. Shravanam means hearing. Kirtanam means glorifying, chanting. And Smaranam, remembering. By those three things, one's heart will melt. Then one can understand, one will develop bhakti. If one's heart is hardened by false arguments or filled with the desire to control, then the propensity for service does not appear. So that's Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada. And Gurudev said, he said, Prem Nam Pracharita E Avatar. This Gaura avatar, the purpose of the incarnation of Gaura is to propagate Prem Nam, which we discussed last night, and not ordinary Nam, not ordinary name, but Prem Nam. This is significant here, Prem Nam, to propagate that holy name that will give you Krishna Prem. This is significant. So the goal is Prema, right? Right. Purushata Siramani Prema Mahadana, right? Abhideya Nam Bhakti Prema Prayojana. Purushata Siramani Prema Mahadana. So Krishnas Heart says, goal is Prema. That's what Mahaprabhu came to give. But very difficult. He's giving, but very difficult. So, if you chant but no Prema, then what will the chanting be? It'll be Namabas or Namaparat. Not Prem Nam. So our chanting is either Nam, but Gurudev says either Namabas or Namaparada, not Prem Nam, not pure name. And as I said last night, to get the pure name, you'll have to associate with a pure bhakta. pure Premi Bhakta. And because, and that Premanjana Charita Bhakti Vilochanena means that the anointing of the eyes with the that prema, that salve of love, means that begins when one sits in front of a pure Sadhu Vaishnava and hears. That is the process, right? That is the process. So last night I said that there was 3 internal reasons, 3 external reasons why Mahaprabhu appears, right? External reasons is the calling of Advaita Acharya, right? And say Kala Sri Advaita Karana Adana Tanhara Hankara Koila Krishna Akarshana. The calling of Advaita Acharya. Number 2 is the Yuga Avatar. He's not Leela Avatar, he's Yuga Avatar. And number 3, to begin the Sankirtan movement. Right? But the 3 internal reasons are very important. Right? Very important. So before we go there, I just want to quote just a couple of verses by Srila Krsnas Heart, because he's written the Chaitanya Charitamrita and the language is very nice and the dealings are very nice. They're always offering dandavats to so many people, just like in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srila Krsnas Heart, he says that the actual author of the pastimes of Mahaprabhu is Sri Vrindavan Das Thakur, who wrote Sri Chaitanya Bhagavata, right? And he says, I'm only living off the remnants of food stuff he has left. In other words, what he has left, I'm taking that and rewriting, that's all. They're very humble. Right? So, he says, Sirup Sanatana Raghunatha Jiva Charana Siddhadari Yara Karanasa Krishna Lilam Ritam Vita Chaitanya Charitam Rita Kahe Kichudina Krishna Dasa, taking the feet of Srila Rupa Goswami, Sri Sanatana Goswami, Raghunath Das Goswami, Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, Jiva Goswami, Gaba Bhatta Goswami, on my head I always desire their mercy. Thus I, Krishna Das, humbly try to describe the nectar of the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, which are mixed with the pastimes of Lord Krishna. He says, I'm trying to describe. He doesn't say, I am and I've written this book and I'm so great. Right? He doesn't say that. I'm attempting. So when someone says to you, are you a devotee? What do you say? You say, no, I'm not a devotee. I'm aspiring. Right? I'm aspiring. Are you a sadhu? No, I'm aspiring sadhu. So then, next verse, Sri Rup Sanatana Bhatta Raghunath, Sri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunath, Echoe Guru Karan Charana Vandana, Yaha Hoiti Bigna Nasa Abhistai Purana. I pray to the Lotus Feet of the 6 Goswamis, Sri Rup Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath, Sri Jiva Gopal Bhatta and Das Raghunath, so that all impediments to my writing this literature will be annihilated and my desire will be fulfilled. If we think we are writing, we're in a dangerous situation. Right. Guru and Gauranga are holding the pen and we're just pushing it, you know. So, and then of course this verse that we all know, Bandeham Sri Guru Sri Yutapata Kamalam Sri Guru and Vaishnavam Cha Sri Rupam Sagvijatan Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakanvitam Cha Sri Rupam Sagvijatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sijavam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Visakam Vitam Shah. He tries not to leave anyone out. In the Antya-lila Sri Krsnas Heart, he says, offer my respectful obeisance at the lotus feet of my spiritual master and of all the other preceptors on the path of devotional service, not only my guru, all other preceptors. I offer my respectful obeisance on all the Vaishnavas. Right. Under the 6 Goswamis and their associates. That's unlimited people. Right. And of my respectful obeisance under Sri Advaita Acharya Prabhu, Sri Nityananda Prabhu, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and all his devotees, headed by Sri Vastataka. I then offer my respectful obeisance Under the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, Srimati Radharani, and all gopis headed by Lalita and Vishaka, trying not to leave anyone out. See, modern day writers and scholars, I'm so great, I've done this, I've written so many books, blah, blah, blah. It's actually demon. Right? But Krsnas Heart, he's showing the way, right? Showing the way how to act. And later on in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, he quotes that verse, Bande Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prema Meritaro Priyan, Sakarupan Bhaktaganan, Krishna Prema Prala Pradana. I offer my Dandava Pranams to the giant trunk of the tree of Mahaprabhu's tree of love of God, and all the branches, and all the Vaishnavas on those branches who are promoting this Prem Tattva. He offered Dandavat Pranams to them. So he's including everyone. If we're just including ourselves or our own little group, we will become dysfunctional, right? It's just my little group, me, a few people. Outside of this four walls here, nothing exists. It's another sort of Maya. So, Mahaprabhu comes, 3 external reasons and 3 internal reasons, right? So, now I'm going to read from a lecture by our Gurudev Srila Govinda Swami. This is called Swarup Shakti Tattva, 11th of the 5th, 1989, Srila Govinda Swami. So, the 3 internal reasons Krishna comes. Sri Radhaya Pranaya Mahima Kudiso Vanaya Vasvajaya Nadbhuta Madhurima Kudisova Madhya Sokyam Chas Yamad Anubhavataha Kudisam Vetiloba Tadbhavatya Samajani Sakshi Gaba Sindhu Harindu. So this is written by Swarup Damodara Swami. Swarup Damodara Swami is Lalita Shaki. Lalita Shaki is number 1 confidant of Srimati Radharani. So number 1, desiring to understand the glory of Radharani's love, right? Number 2, the wonderful qualities in him that she alone relishes through her love, and the happiness she feels when she realizes the sweetness of his love. The Supreme Lord Hari, richly endowed with her emotions, he appears, Mahaprabhu appears. These are the 3 internal reasons. So there's the Antaranga and the Bahiranga, external reasons, internal reasons. Internal is more important. And the person that made this verse so apparent to us was His Divine Grace Srila Govinda Swami. I was sitting there in the beginning of 1989, very beginning, and Guru was talking about this verse. And, you know, we've read the Chaitanya Charitamrita, we just brush over the verse. It's another verse, you know. Guru Maharaj made a big point. These are internal reasons. You have to understand that. And then this verse is explained in chapter 4 of the Adi Leela. It's very important. So next verse, Sava Baba Koila Krishna Eta Nishchaya Hena Kale Oila Gavatara Samaya. In this way, Lord Krishna came to the decision. Simultaneously, the time came for the incarnation of the age. Right? So in the words of our Gurudev, Srila Govinda Swami, Krishna leaves, right? Winds up his earthly pastimes and he leaves. And he gets back to Goloka Vrindavan and realizes, I've only spoken theoretically, now I have to present practically. So he has to come again. Tate jane mote ache kona ekaras amara mohini rada tare karevas. Considering this, I can understand that some unknown mallow in me controls the entire existence of my captivator, Srimati Radharani. So Krishna now wants to know, he wants to feel and understand what Radharani knows, feels and understands. Right? And in the Chaitanya Charitamrita it said that Srimati Radhika is Sat Prema Dapana. She mirrors Krishna's love 10 million fold. And that Ashraya Jatiya Sukha Anand. This is the real point. That Krishna wants to experience that happiness and bliss in the mood of the Ashraya, which is Srimati Radhika, because he's Vishaya. Anyway, we'll get to that. Nana Yatna Kari Ami Nari Asvadita. Say Sukha Madhurya Grahana Loba Bade Kita. In spite of various efforts, I've not been able to taste it, but my desire to relish that pleasure increases as I smell its sweetness. Rasa Asvadite Ami Koila Avatar. Prema Ras Asvadila Vivida Braka. I have appeared in the world to taste mellows. I shall taste the mellows of pure love in various ways. Radhikara bhava kanti angikara vine. Se tena sukha kabu nahe asfadana. Unless I accept the luster of the ecstatic love of Srimati Radharani, these three desires cannot be fulfilled. So Krishna's thinking, right? It's all going, he's thinking. How to assume this form, how to assume this understanding. Radha bhave angikari daritara vana. Tina sukha asvaditi haba avituna. Therefore, assuming Radharani's sentiments and bodily complexion, I shall descend to fulfill these three desires. So Radharani's sentiment and complexion. And like it says in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Radha bhava duti suvalitam. Krishna comes in the mood and complexion of Srimati Radhika as Mahaprabhu to understand himself. Right? See, to think Mahaprabhu just came to do Harinam, then you haven't got it. You don't understand. I don't understand, but we don't understand. And that's what Guru Maharaj made very apparent. He didn't just come to do Harinam. He didn't just come to be the Yuga avatar. Right. These are the external reasons, Bahiranga, but the internal reasons are very potent. In the mood of Srimati Radhika. So Krishna is greedy now. So Krishna develops greed. So in the Chaitanya Charitamrita it says Loba prema dakdaki. And what is that greed? Greed for prem. What is that prem? Greed for Radha prem. Gurudev says. Right? Krishna's got that greed for Radha prem. What is Radharani's love? Krishna is greedy now. Krishna develops greed for what? What has he developed greed? For what purpose? To taste the mellow of his own beauty as Radharani is tasting. Krishna develops that greed, how Radharani is tasting it, and how can I taste myself? This is the greed. So now we'll discuss it. So this is the greed of Krishna. And that's all, and it's described in that verse, Veti Lobat. Krishna's got greed. The greed for these three things. And no offense to anyone, the only person I know that could speak like this was in ISKCON, especially was Guru Maharaj. There was no one could speak like this. No one could present this, isn't it, Jagadish? No one could. I remember Janardhan, he sent me a lot of information for the Life Story Volume 3. And he said he spent 5 ecstatic weeks in Bhubaneswar. I think it was 5. Then he went through, then he had to leave, so he left. He went to Delhi Temple for a day, and he went to the program and he heard the class. And he said it was a big personality. It's very hot in here, isn't it? Big personality speaking, big GBC person. And he said, after you heard Gurudev, you couldn't listen to anyone else. And he said he sat and listened to the class, and he said that the speaker could not connect with the audience. 5 weeks Gurudev every day, right? 2, 3, 4, 5 hours, right? And then he said, and then he goes to Delhi Temple. He said the person could not connect with the audience, right? He said from then on it's very hard to listen to other speakers. I'm not trying to commit offence here, but the level of the Siddhanta that Gurudev spoke was enormous. Right? Radharani is tasting the beauty of Krishna, and Radharani is getting pleasure or happiness from this, right? The pleasure or this happiness must be somewhere, right? Radharani is getting pleasure and happiness for this. Right? And that pleasure, Gurudev says, must have a container. Where is it contained? And it's contained in Radharani's heart. Right? So the container is adara, right? Container, and the contents adaya. Contents is Radharani's love. Radharani's heart is the container. The container is there. There must be something in that container. What is it? The pleasure derived from Krishna's beauty. That's in Radharani's heart. And Krishna wants to steal that. Because Gurudev says later on, and we'll read it, Krishna is supreme thief. So the only way he can get, Radharani won't give it to him. He has to steal it. That is the contents of the container. The specific words adara, adaya. Right? Adara means container and adaya means contents. So Radharani is Mahabhav Chintamani Swarup. Mahabhav, so Gurudev says this Mahabhav is like the sun's rays. So the sun's rays, if they get hotter and hotter and hotter, everything shrivells up and dries up, right? So that Mahabhava Srimati Radhika, it's like the scorching sun, but what does it dry up? Dries up our material desires so we can surrender to Krishna. Right? So Radharani's heart is such hot, scorching sun-like, that Mahabhav. So this Gurudev talks about Atma Sukha Vansha. That means everybody has a desire to get happiness, but that's our own happiness, right? And Nija's Sukha Vansha, they want pleasure, right? But Radharani's, she's not like that. She wants only Krishna's pleasure, and that's what's in her heart as well. So this is a philosophical point. Radharani has no desire to get pleasure for herself. That desire is dried up. No pleasure for herself, only pleasure for Krishna. And Radharani has this Krishna Seva Sukha Vansha. She only wants to please Krishna. How can I serve Krishna the best and give him pleasure? This is the only desire. And now you'll never find anywhere in this universe such a container. It is only in Radharani. And Rasaraja Krishna has developed greed for that. How he himself will taste his own beauty, it is contained in the heart of Radharani. Radharani's heart is a container, and the substance it contains. So what is the substance? So the container is the core of Radharani's heart. And Gurudev says you cannot think of it as inconceivable. Like we discussed last night, you cannot really conceive it, a lot of these things, because they're inconceivable. Because it's fourth dimensional and we are three dimensional. So Krishna has no such power, no such ability to enter into the heart of Radharani. So how does he do it? So Gurudev says Krishna himself is known as Lila Purushottama, Sringara Rasa Raja. He's the king of all mellows, the source of all mellows, Sringara Rasa Raja. And Sringara Rasa is the embodiment of all rasas. Krishna is the famous thief, supreme thief. Now he wants to steal Mahabhav. It is like a jewel, Ratna, in the heart of Radharani. Right? So he's the supreme thief. When he incarnated himself as Gauranga, he did it. He got that very valuable Ratna, the value of Mahabhav Ratna. Such jewel cannot be described. He stole it and he just spread it everywhere throughout Nadia and Nilachal. Right? So then Krishna becomes Radharani. Shama Sundara becomes Gaura Sundara. Right? Radharani's Taptakanchana Gaurangi and Mahaprabhu's Taptakanchana Gauranga, golden. And this mood, this jewel that Radharani has in her heart, it's only for Krishna, but Krishna steals it, becomes Mahaprabhu, and then spreads it to everybody. Gives it to everyone. So, so Krishna thought he's supreme thief. He's very expert in the art of stealing. So he stole it from the core of the heart of Srimati Radharani. He assumed the bodily hue of Radharani and the sentiment, the mood of Radharani, and Shama Sundara became Gaura. This is the reason why Shama Sundara becomes Gaura Sundara. And he makes the point that when all these verses are quoted in the chapter 4 of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, practically there's no purports. And he says the purport to all this is in the Vidagdha Madhava, Lalita Madhava, and the Rupa Goswami's Ujjvala Nilamani. Those three books, that's the purport. So what's happening is that, as I said, the Vishaya wants to become the Ashraya. So Radharani and all gopis headed by Srimati Radhika are pretty Ashraya, and Krishna is pretty Vishaya. And so Srimati Radharani and all gopis, they are the abode of love, and Krishna is pretty Vishaya, the object of love, right? But he wants to understand the Ashraya, abode of love, not object of love. And this is the whole fourth chapter of the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So then Gurudev quotes this verse, Radhika Hayena Krishnana Pranaya Vikara. Right? Surup Shakti Kladini Nama Yanhara. That means that Srimati Radhika is the transformation of Krishna's love. Right? And through that Surup Shakti it manifests the Kladini. And in the next verse, what's that next verse? Kladini Karaya Krishna Anandasvadana, Kladinira Dwara Kare Bhaktara Prasana. That Kladini energy gives Krishna great pleasure and gives nourishment to the devotees. Right. So what's that nourishment? Krishna gets great pleasure. So it is said, the Sarup Shakti is manifest as Samvit Sadini Kladini. 3 manifestations. Krishna immerses himself in that Kladini Shakti. That Kladini Shakti gives Krishna great pleasure, but here it says Bhaktara Poshana, isn't it? Yeah, Bhaktara Poshana. It gives great nourishment. It gives nourishment to the devotees. So how you'll get that nourishment? That 101% nourishment. How does the Kladini Shakti manifest? In this world. Yeah, that's right. So, Gurudev used to say, and he said it so many times, right? Sarup Shakti Pushta Padika. Guru must be Sarup Shakti Pushta Padika. Means Guru must be empowered by the internal energy. And if you read chapter 16 of the Javadharma, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur talks about this, and when that Sarup Shakti Pushta Padika, Kaya Vyura Rupa, expansion for the spiritual world comes here, takes up the position of a preacher, real preacher, Sadhu Vaishnava. When he speaks, that Kladini Shakti is on his tongue. And that enhances the heart of all the living entities. And when he speaks, the heart starts to come alive. And that's the nourishment. And because we're so conditioned, we have to get that nourishment every day, just like a baby. You've got to feed it baby food, you know. That nourishment must come. And that nourishment is that Kladini. So if you're not on that level, you can't nourish the devotees. No offense. So Gurudev used to say, when you speak, you must speak for Guru and Gauranga, isn't it? Well, how can we speak for Guru and Gauranga? Conditioned soul, right? But when Guru speaks, he's speaking for Guru, he's Guru. And he's speaking for Gauranga, he's nourishing Gauranga. He's nourishing Krishna. Nourishing the devotees. Krishna wants to hear and the devotee wants to hear.
So he does the kirtan of Krishna and others do the kirtan.
Say that again?
He says when the Guru speaks, he does the kirtan of Krishna. When a conditioned soul speaks, he does the kirtan of Maya.
Yeah. Jagadish Pandit Prabhu saying, Gurudev said, when the sadhu speaks, real sadhu, he's kirtan of Krishna. When the conditioned soul speaks, kirtan of Maya. Correct? So, it's very important one must get nourishment. And that's what we mean by Sadhusanga. The manifestation of that Kladini Shakti on the tongue of that great Paramahamsa Vaishnava. Otherwise, what you'll do? So many people can speak. The birds are chirping and the worms are crawling around looking for something to eat, and you know all the animals are talking to each other. Humans are talking, where's the this, where's the that. Aharanidabhayamaitanam cha samanyametat pastabhinaranam. Where's eating, sleeping, mating, defending? But where's money? If I get money, I'll enjoy. But when the sadhu speaks, he's manifesting that. He's empowered by the Sarup Shakti and that manifesting that Kladini, that nourishment on his tongue. And that is Sadhusanga. That is real Sadhusanga. Otherwise, now, I know Gurudev said two types of Sadhusanga. One is the living sadhu, and the other is the Shastra. But the Shastra, Shastriya Sadhusanga is available, but that's only that's used only when the living sadhu is not available. We cannot then say, I've got the book, there's no living sadhu. The book is secondary to the living sadhu. Right? The Sadhusanga, then Shastriya Sadhusanga, secondary. More important, because when the sadhu speaks, he has Krishna in his heart. That's the reality. So, Hladini Shakti gives Shakti gives pleasure to Krishna, great pleasure, and nourishes the devotees. Radharani is the internal energy of Krishna. Her name is Swarup Shakti and Hladini Shakti. Two things, Swarup Shakti, Hladini, and Pranaya Vikriti. Radha Krishna Pranaya Vikriti. You should know these specific words. Two things are there. What is said, Swarup Shakti, it is general identification of the internal potency. When it is said Pranaya Vikriti, it is special identification. Swarup Shakti and Pranaya Vikriti. Shakti means potency. Swarup Shakti means his own internal potency. So Swarup Shakti, Swarup means, Swa means own, Rup means form, Shakti means energy. Own, form, energy is Srimati Radhika. Internal energy is Srimati Radhika. And she manifests through that pure Sadhu Vaishnava through his speaking. That same manifestation of Hladini there is Hladini here when he's speaking. That's why the sadhu encourages people, whereas the pseudo sadhu, he cannot do that. He may even have so many followers, but he cannot actually encourage the heart. He can only encourage the bank balance, the followers, and the buildings. But real sadhu encourages the heart. So, Gurudev said in the lecture in 1994, he said, Swarup Shakti has disappeared. Right, back to front. They are Swarup Shakti. Only one who is empowered by the Swarup Shakti, he can preach. Otherwise, what are we doing? We're repeating. We're repeating. We're like parrots. Right? We're like parrots. We repeat. I heard someone say once, he said, that you should come and hear all the speakers and listen, otherwise you miss out on the Harikatha. That statement's not correct. Because conditioned soul can't speak Harikatha. That's not correct. You should come and listen every night because you might learn something that's a bit different. You might hear something that clicks, that's different. But Harikatha is only from that empowered personality. Therefore, Gurudev said, unless they're empowered by the Swarup Shakti, they cannot preach. Only repeating. Right? And he says here, when the jiva is under the Swarup Shakti, he gets the opportunity to develop bhakti. If one is fortunate and gets the causeless mercy of a Sudha Bhakta Gana, pure devotees, Premi Bhaktas, who are manifestations of the Swarup Shakti of the Lord, then one's life becomes completely changed. Otherwise it cannot be changed. And that's the point. When you hear from that, and I've seen it even as out of it as I am, and some of us are, those that have heard from pure sadhus and those that haven't, there's an ocean of difference. It's like cheese and chalk. You can be the most out of it person and you've heard from a sadhu and you listen to them and they tell you all this really far out stuff. They say all these really nice things because they've heard it from the sadhu. Most important is to hear from that sadhu. Okay, I'm going to stop now because Maharaj is going to speak. Thank you very much.